At sunrise, the desert is quiet. The wind moves softly across the Giza plateau. The air is cool, the light is pale. And in that silence, the Great Pyramid stands exactly as it has for nearly 5,000 years. Or perhaps longer. For generations, we have been told a simple story. Around 2550 BC, a young pharaoh named Khufu ordered the construction of a massive tomb. Thousands of laborers pulled stone blocks across the sand. Copper chisels shaped granite. Ramps rose. Sweat fell. And in just 20 years, the tallest structure on Earth was completed. It is a powerful image, a story of human determination. But when we look closely at the stone itself, the story begins to feel incomplete. Because the Great Pyramid does not behave like a simple tomb. It does not look like one. It does not feel like one. And in recent decades, new discoveries, new measurements, and new questions have quietly begun to reshape the conversation. This is not a story about aliens. It is not a story about fantasy. It is a story about evidence. About silence where there should be records. About precision where there should be roughness. About weather patterns frozen into stone. And about why the history of the Great Pyramid may be far more complicated than we were taught. If the Great Pyramid was truly the crowning achievement of Pharaoh Khufu, then we might expect something very simple. We would expect proof. The traditional narrative attributes the pyramid to Pharaoh Khufu, also known to the Greeks as Cheops. He ruled during Egypt's 4th dynasty. According to mainstream Egyptology, the pyramid was constructed during his reign, around 2550 BC, as his eternal resting place. But here is the first quiet anomaly. Inside the Great Pyramid, there are no grand inscriptions declaring Khufu's ownership. There are no carved prayers, no victory reliefs, no biographical accounts of his reign. Later Egyptian tombs are filled with such details. Walls covered in hieroglyphs, spells, praise, instructions for the afterlife. Yet the largest pyramid ever built is almost completely bare. There are quarry marks discovered in upper relieving chambers hidden above the king's chamber. These marks include the name of Khufu. Egyptologists consider them strong evidence that the pyramid was built during his reign. Some researchers accept this. Others question whether these markings are definitive proof of authorship, or whether they simply indicate work gangs operating under his authority during restoration or modification. The debate continues. But what remains undeniable is this. For a civilization known for meticulous record-keeping, there are no surviving contemporary construction documents describing the building of the Great Pyramid. We have records of grain shipments, records of labor rotations, records of minor temple repairs, yet no official blueprint, no detailed royal decree describing the construction of the most ambitious monument in Egyptian history. It is a silence that some historians consider normal for ancient times. Others find it curious. Then there is the second anomaly. If the Great Pyramid was a tomb, where is the tomb? No mummy of Khufu was ever found inside. No funerary treasures, no burial goods. The sarcophagus inside the king's chamber is empty. It is plain. It bears no inscription. Now, it is important to note that tomb robbing was common in ancient Egypt. Many royal tombs were looted in antiquity. The absence of treasures does not automatically disqualify the pyramid as a tomb. But the Great Pyramid differs from later royal burials in another way. Its interior walls are undecorated. Compare this with the richly painted chambers in the Valley of the Kings. Those tombs are filled with texts guiding the pharaoh through the afterlife. The Great Pyramid offers no such guidance. It is architecturally complex, precisely engineered, but symbolically silent. And then there is something even more subtle. the question of light. Deep inside the pyramid, narrow passageways extend into darkness. The Grand Gallery rises steeply upward. The king's chamber sits at the heart of the structure. To build these interior spaces would have required illumination. The common assumption is that workers used oil lamps or torches. But detailed examinations of the interior surfaces reveal something interesting. There is no heavy soot accumulation on the ceilings, no thick black residue coating the stone. Some Egyptologists argue that ancient builders may have used reflective copper mirrors to direct sunlight deep into the chambers. Others suggest carefully ventilated oil lamps that minimized smoke. It remains a technical discussion, but for alternative researchers, the absence of visible soot has fueled speculation about unknown lighting techniques. Most mainstream scholars reject such speculation. Still, the question lingers quietly in the background. How were these chambers illuminated during construction? The third reason the pyramid story is being reconsidered lies not in what is missing, but in what is present: precision. The Great Pyramid is aligned to true north with extraordinary accuracy. Modern measurements show an alignment error of only a fraction of a degree. This level of precision suggests advanced knowledge of astronomy and surveying. Ancient Egyptians were skilled observers of the sky. They tracked stars. They oriented temples with celestial events. But the pyramid's alignment continues to impress even modern engineers. Inside, the king's chamber is constructed from massive granite blocks transported from Aswan, more than 800 kilometers away. Some of these blocks weigh up to 70 or 80 tons. Granite is a hard stone. It contains quartz crystals. On the Mohs scale of hardness, quartz ranks at 7, copper ranks at 3. Mainstream archaeology maintains that copper chisels, combined with stone pounders and sand abrasives, were sufficient to shape granite. Experimental archaeology has shown that granite can indeed be worked with copper tools and sand. It is slow, it is labor-intensive, but it is possible. However, certain granite drill cores found in Egypt have sparked debate. Engineer Christopher Dunn has argued that some drill holes exhibit characteristics suggesting high-speed rotary drilling. Many Egyptologists dispute this interpretation. They argue that ancient bow drills with abrasive slurry could produce similar results over time. The disagreement is technical. It revolves around feed rates, striation patterns, tool marks. But at its core, it raises a larger question. Did Bronze Age technology fully account for the precision we observe? Or are we underestimating the ingenuity of ancient craftsmen? Beyond the pyramid itself, similar precision appears at the Serapeum of Saqqara. There, enormous granite sarcophagi sit in underground chambers. Their interior surfaces are remarkably smooth and squared. And at Osirian in Abydos, massive stone blocks form a structure that feels almost megalithic in character. Mainstream scholars attribute these constructions to dynastic Egyptians. Alternative researchers sometimes suggest inherited knowledge from an earlier culture. The evidence itself does not speak. It waits. Then, in 2017, a new layer was added to the mystery. An international team used muon radiography to scan the Great Pyramid. Muon particles are cosmic rays that constantly pass through the Earth. By measuring how many are absorbed by dense stone, scientists can detect hidden voids. The project was known as ScanPyramids. The results revealed a previously unknown space above the Grand Gallery. It was large, at least 30 meters long. It became known simply as the Big Void. Its purpose remains unknown. Egyptian authorities have stated that further investigation must be carefully controlled to preserve the structure. For some observers, this caution is responsible stewardship. For others, it feels like hesitation. And then there is the Sphinx. The Great Sphinx sits nearby, its body carved directly from limestone bedrock. Traditionally attributed to Pharaoh Khufu, it is generally dated to around 2500 BC. But in the 1990s, geologist Robert Schoch, working with author John Anthony West, proposed that the erosion patterns on the Sphinx enclosure indicated prolonged rainfall rather than wind-driven sand. They observed vertical, undulating weathering patterns that they argued were consistent with heavy precipitation. According to climate studies, the Giza region experienced significantly wetter conditions at the end of the last ice age, thousands of years before the traditional dynastic timeline. Many geologists disagree with Schoch's conclusions. They argue that the erosion can be explained by a combination of wind, salt crystallization, and localized water effects. The debate continues within academic circles. It is not settled, but it introduces a profound possibility. What if parts of the Giza plateau are older than we think? Astronomer Robert Bauval proposed another controversial idea known as the Orion correlation theory. He suggested that the three main pyramids align with the stars of Orion's belt as they would have appeared around 10,500 BC. Critics argue that star alignments can be interpreted in many ways, and that the correlation is coincidental. Supporters see deliberate celestial design. The sky does not provide an easy answer. And then there is the human element. For decades, Egyptian archaeology was strongly associated with Zahi Hawass. As Secretary General of the Supreme Council of Antiquities and later Minister of Antiquities, he played a central role in regulating research access. Hawass has consistently defended the mainstream timeline of the pyramids. He has also emphasized the importance of preserving Egypt's heritage from destructive exploration. Some critics accuse him of restricting alternative research. Others argue that his firm stance protected invaluable monuments from reckless intrusion. Institutions, like pyramids, are built on foundations, and foundations are not easily moved. So where does this leave us? 5 pressures are quietly reshaping the pyramid's story. The silence of direct inscriptions, the unusual emptiness of its chambers, the extraordinary precision of its engineering, the geological debate surrounding the Sphinx, and the discovery of hidden spaces still unexplored. None of these elements alone overturn the traditional narrative, but together they create friction. History is not static. It evolves as new tools, new data, and new minds revisit old stones. Mainstream Egyptology still maintains that the Great Pyramid was built by skilled laborers under Pharaoh Khufu during the 4th dynasty. That remains the dominant, evidence-supported position. Yet even within that framework, questions remain open. How exactly were the largest granite beams lifted into place? What is the function of the big void? Why was the interior left undecorated? Why does the Sphinx's erosion inspire such persistent debate? Perhaps the most honest answer is this: we do not know everything. And perhaps that is not a weakness, it is an invitation. When we stand before the Great Pyramid today, we are not just looking at an ancient tomb. We are looking at a conversation across millennia, a structure that forces us to measure our assumptions, a monument that reminds us how much has been lost and how much may still be waiting beneath the sand. The story of the Great Pyramid is not collapsing, it is expanding. And maybe that is the real mystery. Not whether the history books are wrong, but whether we are willing to let them grow. The desert remains quiet, the stones remain patient, and the questions remain open.